Thank you so much for joining us on At Issue. I'm H. Wayne Wilson. This week, the mayor of the city of Peoria gave his State of the City address to the Chamber of Commerce gathering of about 600 people at the Civic Center in Peoria. And he touched on a lot of topics, and we're going to review some of those and talk about some other things that he did not mention during his speech. And to do that, we also have our city manager of the city of Peoria here. Patrick Urich is joining us. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
And we have the mayor, Mayor Jim Ardis, in his third term as mayor of the city of Peoria. Before we get to city issues, there's one thing that's much more important than city issues, and that is the reading program at Keller School in Peoria. I had an opportunity this week to speak to the class up there, Jennifer Young's class, and there I am with Jack. I think Jack's last name might be Oakford. I'm not sure, but that's Jack, and he's holding the book. It's a book called Crenshaw by Catherine Applegate, and she is the Newbery Medal winner for a book called The One and Only Ivan. She tends to write about imaginary things. Ivan was an imaginary gorilla, and in Crenshaw there's an imaginary cat named Crenshaw. And Mayor, you're going to do likewise.
Yeah, I'll be at Keller tomorrow. I always look forward to going up there and reading to the students.
Yeah. Tomorrow, meaning for those of you watching on the weekend, it meant Friday. But it's very enjoyable, and the kids are surprisingly well behaved.
Right.
So, let's talk about your speech first. One thing I want to point out is that, and I think I understand why, but you made no reference to the state situation in your speech. Why was that?
Well, you know, there's a lot of information that we try to condense down into 25 or 30 minutes, and I think everybody understands the dynamic in Springfield and what's going on there, how much trouble that creates for us at the local level, not just in government, but on the private side too. So I don't think it was a situation where we really felt that there was going to be a whole lot of benefit by saying, you know what, Springfield, would be nice if you'd get a budget passed.
We'll talk more about your speech, but first, you met on January 15th with legislative leaders, and it's an annual thing.
Mm-hmm.
The county does as well. And you talked about a couple of things that you'd like to see happen. I know they might be down on the list because there is no budget in Springfield, but one of them was the pension situation. Can you review that for us? I mean, the costs are skyrocketing.
Yeah, we did have that discussion with our legislators like we do every year. A lot of people still think that the pensions are something that we negotiate when we negotiate our other employee benefits and so on. But those pensions for police and fire are legislated out of Springfield. So we have a difficult time trying to help them understand that the levels that they've established are not sustainable for us. So for an example, I mean, our police and fire pension will go up $1 million again next year. In 1 year's time, the amount of money that we have to put in for our pensions will go up $1 million next year. So we have joint meetings for the last several years. We've done joint meetings with the county and our legislators, so they're getting a consistent message from both of us on the things that we're addressing, which I think is very helpful. But there's, the pension situation in Springfield is probably the most dire that needs to be addressed, because it could be, who knows, it could be 10 years from now, it could be 8 years from now, but that pension system is going to implode, and it has to be addressed.
So let's talk about budget, because pensions are part of the problem that you have in establishing a budget every year, or you're on the 2-year cycle now.
Correct.
What impact does the pension have on when you go to put together a budget?
It has a huge impact, or it's had a huge impact over the last 10 years. As we've looked, there was a slide that we had in the State of the City yesterday where the mayor was talking about the average growth rates in our general fund. And we've seen in the last 5 years that our revenues have declined in the general fund on average 3%. And we've seen that our healthcare costs have remained at virtually flat at about 0.5%, because our employees have been taking on more of the burden of that. The costs of our wages have only grown by 1.2% on average during that 5-year period, but we've also cut 130 employees over the last 7 years. but our pension costs have actually grown 4 times the rate of inflation. And it is I've said before, it's like the Pac-Man that's chewing up more and more of our budget every year. And it's crowding out our ability to use, because it's funded largely by property taxes, it's crowding out our ability to use property taxes for anything but pensions. This past year, in 2015, 90% of our property tax levy went to cover pension costs. So we only had 10% of our portion of the property tax bill was actually going towards operations.
So that leads to looking to other sources of income, and you made a proposal to the council, which they implemented, to raise what taxes, and where does that money go?
Well, we started the budget discussion for 2016 and 17 back in January of 2015. It was unprecedented, the amount of discussion and input that we had on the budget. We knew we were facing a budget deficit in 2016 of $6 million, and we had another $7 million in 2017 that we were going to have to close. So we did a number of things. On the operating side, we cut our expenses in the general fund by about $1 million. We reduced the amount we're contributing to our other post-employment benefits, which is the retiree health care costs, by about $2 million. We then cut our capital budget by $4 million. So those were all the expense cuts that we made. In addition, we knew that we had to increase revenues. So we've put in some sizable fee increases, notably in rental registrations to fund additional demolition work, additional environmental clearance of vacant lots, additional resident police officer. But then we added a sales tax increase beginning July 1st of 1/4%. So that's the operating side. That balanced the operating budget over the next 2 years. On the capital side, the council really wanted to see. We've done some survey work of our community. Most people were not happy with the condition of our roads and our infrastructure, and so we ended up making a recommendation in the proposed budget that we would increase the motor fuel tax 3 cents a gallon to go towards roads. The first time I've presented a budget in more than 20 years of putting budgets together for city councils and county boards, and that I had a city council that said, we want more money going towards roads. So we found an additional $4 million, mostly from property taxes, but also from a hotel tax increase of 2% that will cover now $5.2 million more in roads for next year.
So the city manager has talked about 4 areas where taxes were increased, and now you're looking at another fee, the stormwater fee, to cover this, what's called CSO, and that is combined sewer overflow. The city, the downtown area primarily, right, has a situation where in heavy rainfall events, high water events, it overflows into the Illinois River without being treated by the Greater Peoria Sanitary District. So can you explain what the possibilities are for this fee if it's initiated, and where are we with the city's effort to say to the EPA, yes, we're going to try to correct this, but we want to do it on our terms, not yours?
Well, I'll take the second part first, H, because we're almost finished with that negotiating part with the EPA. Those discussions have been going on for years and years, but literally this part of the discussion has been going on for over 20 years. And so we have finally gotten to a place where we're in agreement on general terms of what needs to be done, how we're going to do it. As we've said before, our people and our consultants have come up with a 100% green solution to this. So the EPA's in a nutshell, the EPA's solution was a totally engineered solution, which was to put a great big pipe that ran the length of the riverfront. When these big rainfalls would come, the water would flow into that big pipe and kind of use it as a holding tank, and it would be released slowly to the sanitary district, who would treat it and put it back into the river. Huge problems with that. The biggest one is the expense is not significantly different, but it's a big pipe that's underground. People can't see where their money's going. And other side issues, I mean, there's no domestic company that can actually install that pipe, so you'd be bringing a foreign company over here to basically drill a big tunnel and place the pipe in. So we came up with this 100% green solution, which is, it's going to accomplish the same thing, but it's going to beautify our city at the same time. So there'll be projects, road projects and other projects that will be beautification, put people to work, and actually minimize the amount of water that will ever get into the sewer system in the first place.
Some examples, because when we read about this, we say, okay, green, bioswale, and pretty soon our eyes go.
Sure.
Real examples of what that means.
Real examples of that would be the Main and University intersection, where we have dry wells that are set up that capture the stormwater runoff from the street if there's a storm event, where there are flowers and other plants that are capturing that and soaking that up. Washington Street, with the project that we've had, the Tiger Grant, we've been able to put in dry wells there that will capture the water. We're also looking at pavement that will soak up the water, using that new technology, so that instead of just having the water run off of it, the water would actually soak down into the soils and the base layers underneath the pavements. Those are the types of solutions that we're looking at.
And an example of that parking lot is Westlake Shopping Center.
It's a good example of one.
Let's turn to downtown for a couple of different issues, Mayor. One is Cat World headquarters announced about a year ago, and we've hit some continued tough economic times in the construction and mining industry. Have you heard from Caterpillar with regard to the World headquarters?
Well, we have discussions with Caterpillar frequently on a lot of different issues. Great communication between, and any time that the World headquarters comes up as a part of these discussions, they're still very adamant that the plans have not changed. They're still going to build their World headquarters here. You'll remember when they made the announcement that the chairman, I think, did a good job of setting the expectation that this new World headquarters wasn't going to be built in the next 2 or 3 years. He said, depending on the economic climate and how the business is going, that it could be 7 to 10 years before the project is totally finished. So that doesn't mean 7 to 10 years before it starts. That just means that they were looking at a potential window of 10 years, which hasn't changed. Even with the bad news that's been recently announced, we have no indication that target date has been pushed out.
And we have a situation where a building that's already built, long time hotel, 4 Points by Sheraton, sits empty. And the Civic Center sales staff repeatedly says it's tough to fill conventions at the Civic Center when you only have a handful of rooms downtown.
Well, it's true, and we made a significant investment in the Marriott project to help that along. We did not know, obviously, that the Sheraton was going to go under almost right after the pier came online, but we are very excited that due to the previous owner getting himself in problems with the federal government, the project was sold. We've met with the new owners. We're very encouraged because they are a pure hotel company. They own a number of companies across Iowa, other points in the Midwest where they're doing hotels. That's their main business. As a matter of fact, we have the redevelopment agreement with them that will be on our agenda next week. So we're going to start seeing some progress down there, and they're going to put a lot of money into that hotel. It's going to be nice when they're finished.
And the bonds on the Marriott are being paid off on schedule?
Bonds are being paid off on schedule. Yes.
The warehouse district. Many people, we're sitting in the warehouse district here at the studio. Many people say the warehouse district is just an extension of downtown. What is the private investment so far? And I don't necessarily mean in numbers, but where are we? Because a lot of federal, state, and local money has gone into this.
There has been. I think overall between the federal government, the state government, and the local governments, we've put in about $25 million worth of infrastructure work here in the warehouse district. So we've seen in the last year we had 5 redevelopment agreements that we executed from 214 Pecan Street to the Murray Building.
Katie Kim's project.
Katie Kim's project. We have the Murray Building, where Rodell's Brewery has just recently moved in. Farnsworth is going to be moving their headquarters into that building, and then they're going to have 30 apartments up above it. We have Persimmon Lofts, which is at the corner of Persimmon and Adams, which is going forward. So we've had a number of buildings that are moving forward, and now we're starting to see the wheel is turning on residential properties, which is the key point that we wanted with the warehouse district. We knew we had the studies that said that we could absorb a couple of hundred units a year of apartments, and we're starting to see that happening. And I think right now that investment that we made from the public side is almost matched in terms of actual investment or planned investment coming in right now.
There might be a stumbling block with the the state historic tax credit. That expires the end of this year.
Mm-hmm.
And at least one developer I talked to said he's got another project in mind, but he's afraid to start. Anything from your legislators in terms of, would that be extended past the end of this year?
I think it's going to be a tough one until they get a little bit closer on the budget. You know, there's a lot of, even though that it was passed before and we've proven that these historic tax credits don't cost the state money, they actually make the state money because people are going in and investing in these older properties and increasing the value, creating jobs and so on. Our representatives in Springfield are reluctant to say that it's going to be in, but I think once they get closer to a budget, we'll be able to go down there and hopefully get this extended, because it is a financing mechanism that's very important to these developers and these older properties, and sometimes that's enough to make the difference between doing the project or not.
In your speech, the State of the City speech, you spent a good portion of that speech talking about education, from Peoria Promise, which we might explain here in a moment, to Dunlap, to District 150 with the alignment program. You've been heavily involved in education. I mean, you've said for a long time the city is only as healthy as its educational component. Mm-hmm. You continue to drill that issue. What prospects do you hold out for seeing it, and I'll use the word turnaround, that's my term, not yours, but mm-hmm. turnaround in education in Peoria? Yeah,
turnaround in education is probably an easier topic than turnaround in other areas in the state, but it really is at the foundation level the most important thing in our community. You know, from our standpoint, when you're trying to attract people into your community and make your community thrive, one of the first things, if not the first thing everybody looks at, is the quality of the schools in your city. And so we have, over the last 20 years, been seeing that number go down of people that come into the area. And so it's very important. But, you know, from a higher level, it's important for us to have quality schools, kids getting a good education, getting more continuing education after high school, so that our employers have a highly educated, quality, skilled workforce. So that attracts more business into the community. So if we can't address and really place the education of all of our kids as a priority for our community, we're not going to be able to grow our community, and we're not going to be able to attract more employers to come here. So that's why we continue to stress the importance of education. And when I mentioned Dunlap, the Dunlap school system is very important to the city of Peoria. Absolutely. You know, we're not separate at all. As a matter of fact, some people are really surprised when we throw out the statistic that nearly 80% of students that are in Dunlap School District, nearly 80% have City of Peoria addresses. And so that's not a bad thing. That's a really good thing that we have a very strong school district in District 323. And now what we're really working very hard with District 150 is to help them improve on that too. In brief, and I know that you're the mayor and not the superintendent of District 150, but there is a process, and Rockford came down and met with everybody down here. There's a process in place called alignment. Mm-hmm. Could you talk to us about what that means in terms of a collaboration between the city, the district, the
business community, et cetera?
So I'll try to keep it really simple, but for the first thing for your viewers, if they go to Alignment USA, you can look at the actual national program and you can drill in deeper to see what these different communities have done to strengthen and support their school districts. But basically what it does, it takes all these different elements of a community. There's so many different efforts going on. The Keller reading program is basically a subset of what these different communities are trying to do, to read to kids, to mentor them, and so on. But it's really simple. You're taking all these different areas within the community that are trying to participate in helping the community be stronger educationally, and they're lining them up. Alignment. They're getting them in line and working together, communicating together, so everybody moves in the same direction and supports the school district to its fullest. District 150 is, they're an urban school district. There's a high poverty level. They got student mobility is very high. They need all the help they can get. There's a lot of people in the community that are trying to help in different areas. So the alignment process is going to bring everybody together, talk to each other about what's being done, and try to move together as a whole city.
And the Chamber of Commerce has a program called Pathways to Prosperity that is trying to tie students to actual after-school life.
It's after-school life. It's mentorships. It's getting part-time work with some of these companies to help them understand what those different jobs could be and how they could potentially go into those careers.
I mentioned taxes before. I want to talk about a fee.
Sure.
Several years ago, garbage collection in the city of Peoria came out of the property tax. Then, was it 5 years ago or so, you implemented a monthly fee, $14 right now. Now, we got a monthly bill. Now that's going to be incorporated as a line item on the property tax bill.
That's correct.
So I'm going to ask the question, if we come full circle, we paid property taxes and had our garbage collected and recycling done. Now we're still paying property taxes, if you will, and getting our garbage collected.
It is a residential service. Only residential customers pay for the garbage service. It will be a non-ad valorem line on the property tax bill, which means it's not going to go up with the value of your house or the value of your property. Some of our larger apartment complexes don't currently pay that fee because they have a contract for trash collection. Our commercial and industrial users don't pay this fee because they have a contract in place for their trash collection. So we've structured this now and have worked with the county. Our collection rate was about 90%, which is pretty good for collecting on the bills that we have. By working with the county to put it on the tax bill, we're hopeful that we're going to see the same collection rates that they have for property taxes, which is at 99%. So that was one way that we're going to be able to reduce our overhead costs for administering this fee and also to collect more revenue with it.
10% of the people did not pay their garbage bill? Really?
Yep.
I was not one of them. I was in the 90%. A final thought, we're starting to run out of time, but I do want to get to the issue of police and fire diversity. I know it's difficult because you have to depend upon applicants who pass these tests. What efforts are being undertaken to try to diversify those forces and broaden the pool from which you can choose?
Well, H, over the last number of years, we've worked very closely with representatives from the building trades in other parts of the community, in addition to the NAACP and so on. And we've really been trying to come up with ways that we can, on the city side, help young kids understand that we have really good job opportunities within the city of Peoria, particularly in police and fire. So, we're gonna be going out into the schools. We're gonna be doing a lot of job fairs, and we are really for ourselves trying to push ourselves into getting a much larger pool of minority applicants that will allow the city, the look of the people in our police and fire department, to better represent the diversity in our city and what the makeup of that part of the community is.
And a final question for you, City Manager. River Trail Apartments, is the city's portion of this preparation completed now, and what are we waiting on?
It is. We have had our opportunity to prepare the documentation for the proposed purchase of land. We've submitted that to the State Department of Natural Resources. It's now, the ball is really in their court. We've had our public input of our proposed plan. We've responded with our comments to that public input, which is all part of the process. Now we have to wait and hear from the Department of Natural Resources.
Timetable?
Probably sometime in the early spring, we should hear back from the state. Once that process is complete, we have some milestones with the developer that we have to meet. If it's all signs point towards go, the developer could be turning earth as early as the fall.
And with that, we are out of time. A lot of other issues that we could be talking about. We'll invite you back to discuss those in the future. Thank you to City Manager Patrick Urich and to the Mayor of the City of Peoria, Jim Ardis. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks, Sage.
We'll be back in 2 weeks with a new edition of At Issue, when we'll be talking to Mike Bigger of Stark County and to Ryan Spain of the Peoria City Council. Their roles in the task force, the state task force, to look at unfunded mandates and consolidation. We'll have that report in 2 weeks here on At Issue.